Hey, everybody. Hey, we'll get started in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So actually, while we give everyone 2 minutes, now's a good time to toss topics into the agenda. Oh, hello. Welcome, everybody. November 27th, 2020. Good deal. Good deal. Well, looking over the attendees, Tina, you might be the only other one who's a little bit fatter today like me than you were yesterday. I'm trying to remember. Tina, are you based in Florida? Did you do any turkey yesterday?
No. I actually reached out to you on LinkedIn regarding this project, and I just joined the newcomers meeting this week. And yeah, I might be the odd one out. I think all the other people here on this meeting are quite seasoned. Yeah.
Oh no! Actually, I think you'll find that you're not. There's quite the blend. So anyway, Tina, very nice to have you. I didn't mean to try to make a joke with you before we even got
Oh yeah.
to
That's fine. Yeah, I understand.
Oh, good. Well, very nice to have you. Actually, so continue with that introduction, if you would. You said you got to catch the newcomers call yesterday, and then remind everybody where you're currently based, or where are you calling in from?
Yeah, I'm actually based in India. And to brief a little bit about myself, I currently work at Microsoft as a support engineer. So we majorly deal with the Azure services and the various enterprises that use Microsoft services. I am transitioning into a different role, which is the product manager role. But open source is something I always wanted to do, and containers is something that recently has interested me. So I wanted to get my hands dirty on it using this project.
Awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. If you would, one more question for you. Or as you look for, well, all right, maybe this is just sort of to be determined, but as you look, I guess both as you're engaging with customers on specific Microsoft products or Microsoft services, what are those? And then as you look toward a shifting of role, do you already know what that area might be, or like what services
Yeah.
might? Yeah.
Yeah, so I am actually an engineer for the Azure Integration platform. So that basically serves as a platform for various Azure resources as well as any on-prem services that the user might want to integrate to on the cloud. A few of examples would be maybe an Azure SQL Server and maybe Azure Service Bus, Azure Event Grid, Event Hub, Azure Container Instances, things like that. And the new team that I'm transitioning into is actually of the AI products team. So I'm going to be dealing with the range of products like the Cortana, the Bing Search Relevance, and all the products that come under the search and AI space. And that again comes from my interest in the ML and AI space, which is something that I was again doing apart from my job. And yeah, so this is something that this area of containers, Docker, and all is relatively new to me, and I thought the best way to learn it is actually doing a project on it, and I found this really interesting. I found it via the community bridge, and here I am.
You great. I guess that makes me so happy, or it makes me. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, no better way to just put your hands on something, or and there's a lot of projects and technologies floating around here. Some very warm, friendly folks that are on the call now, and some that aren't as well. And yeah, the community spans the full gamut from um, those that haven't touched Git before, haven't touched Docker or Kubernetes or a service mesh, to those that are writing service mesh standards and creating service mesh. Or like, so
Yeah, I think that's something I would like to thank you for being really open to you know for anybody to come and contribute to this project. And also I also learned from the newcomers meeting that there are resources that we can look into and try to understand what this project is about. I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you so much for actually making this like being rightfully calling it an open source project and really providing all the resources for it. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, yeah. There's a well, I guess I don't often think of this, but if I were to be, or I generally try to be as open and honest as possible. So it's not entirely altruistic, or rather, I would say, hey, I personally take enjoyment in sharing things that I know, and certainly through that process, I learn a ton from others as I'm trying to explain something that I don't understand. Then I'm forced to learn it. And then the other thing about that is, hey, if people are going to spend time together, make friends, have relationships, build things, do stuff, that we would want for those to be the brightest folks as possible. Like that, so withholding anything just defeats like the purpose of trying to attract.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I get it. Yeah.
um, I got to say, that's not how all environments work. Like that's um, some people. This is something I learned earlier in my. So since you're here, Tina, let's just talk about everything but the projects. Let's talk about philosophy on. But I would say that one of the learnings that I took as a younger, thinner individual was how that job security isn't retained if you're white knuckling knowledge. If you're like white knuckling, if you think that the job security or being successful comes from hoarding the knowledge or hoarding control over the thing. Like as an example, anyone in the world can edit this. I don't know if they can edit, if they can just comment on this doc, but they can edit. Anyone that comes willy-nilly can edit all documents, delete stuff. And anyway, the power, or the how you get good and how you do awesome, inspiring things is by the inverse of that, is like empowering others. And so it's
Yep.
a
That's really good to know and hear from the founder of this project. So thank you so much, Lee. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, nice. Awesome. Okay. Tina's here. This is good. All right. Well, we got a few folks on. I think everybody slapped their name in. And also just there's a standing rule. And I'm hoping Kush doesn't do it right now. There's a standing rule. If you don't put your name in, then I get to do it for you. And I always come up with horrible last names. So Kush. Kush has got just this, big brain. And so as he got locked down like everyone else, he just took the buzzers and so he's just, it's a nice bulbous, brainy, yeah. Anyway, speaking of Kush, hey, first topic that we wanted to talk about, other than just welcoming in folks like Tina and other newcomers, I don't see any other newcomer names on the call other than Vishal, Vishal, you're relatively fresh. I think you got to introduce on this call before. And yeah, I remember now because the last two times that you introduced, it was you have an audio challenge. So you were doing it in chat. Yep, that's right. Yep, there you are.
Audible?
Oh, there he is. Yeah, Vishal, we haven't literally heard from you before. So if you want to do an introduction, that'd be great.
I'm audible or not?
You are.
Okay, so I'm fresh as a third year undergraduate student from the Devgiri Institute of Engineering and Management Studies. As a learner in open source contribute, also I'm contribute the Fedora project as a kernel testing, and that is me.
Oh, that's awesome. We were just, Vishal, were we talking about Fedora 24? It wasn't because of you, I don't think, but we were just talking about Fedora 24 and the fact that it doesn't support Docker out of the box. I think it supports Podman. And
Yes.
so have you?
I think is Fedora 32 is not support Docker.
Yeah, you're totally right. I said 24. Yeah, 24 is way far away from 32. Yeah, that's Vishal, I don't know if this is an area of interest for you or not, but I'm ignorant of what it takes to kind of, take a Docker image and get that functional in a Podman environment. But we've had a couple of people ask about whether or not the projects support Podman. And in part, I'm seeing where that's coming from now. Could be something for you to dig into if that strikes your interest. So think about it. Good to have you, Vishal. Kush, I think you've got our first topic of the day.
Sure. So I'll just share my screen. It's visible, right?
No, or not for me.
Just a minute. It's visible now, right?
It is.
Okay. So the command which we are going to talk about today is Mesh-free CTL system channel. So we already have stable and edge release channels incorporated in Mesh-free and now in every supported Mesh-free adapters. So for every PR which is merged into master, an edge release is made. And for every stable release which we make, a stable release is made. So you can say that the edge release are more updated and have more experimental features than the stable releases. So the following command allows you to switch between the channels using the using the system subcommand. So let me just show you a quick demo over here. I have built Mesh-free CTL on my local because we have not merged the command. So an official version won't be provided right now. Mesh CTL system channel switch stable or switch edge. So what the command will do is it will first search for the Meshri configuration, which is present in the .meshri folder under the name of meshri.yaml. Then it will replace all the stable tags with the edge tags. And then it will try to fetch the containers, and then it will update the containers. So there is just a, let me redo it. So the following error, which was just encountered, is not related to the Meshri CTL command, but it's due to the list system resources, which I have allocated to Docker. It should be done. Okay, so let's pause for a bit and I'll try to see if I can make for the demo at the last because of the system resources which Docker is not getting right now. But for now, if you want to check out the code, here's the PR, which is in the draft mode right now. And you can see over here the changes which you have made. We have two simple bash scripts, which we will be migrating to a Golang function. What the following does is it searches the file location and it replaces every stable tag with an edge tag and vice versa for use stable channel, which will replace every edge tag with stable tag. Yep. So it's the timeout command for the Docker. So I'll just increase the Docker resources and see if I can make for the demo after a while.
Sure, sounds good. Actually, Kush, there's an opportunity to discuss a related issue to what you're experiencing. I'll put that as a topic for us. Just, Docker Hub rate limiting. Nice, very good. So just Kush was giving context as to what this new feature is in Meshri CTL, and and part of the context you can find it the link Meshri build and release strategy. That document takes you through the continuous integration setup that Meshri server, Meshri UI, Meshri adapters, Meshri CTL, the command line client, how they're built and how they're released. The portion that there's a number of considerations about how all of that is done, but one of those considerations is the notion that there's the concept that of a stable release and a nightly release, I quote unquote nightly. Rather, there's a stable release, which I don't think that there's any better adjective to use to describe the intention of that channel, that as a user, the default channel that people are subscribed to when they download the project is the stable channel. It's slower to release, less bugs, hopefully. The edge channel is a release channel that people can subscribe to that gets updated, not nightly, but it gets updated as and when a pull request is merged into the mainline branch in each of the repos. Actually, if you look across the Layer5 projects, I don't recall. There's 40 something repositories, I believe, maybe 30 of which belong to or are there for purposes of Meshery. And then we have a number of other projects. Most, or like basically all 30 of them that are related to Meshery have the same behavior that's described in here, which is for the edge channel, it's anytime that there's a merge into the main branch, there's a new edge release. Edge latest is what's used. So speaking of Docker, actually, we're going to talk about Docker, I think, a lot today. But the way that Meshery server, Meshery UI, and Meshery adapters are released, the artifacts that are released, the form factor, if you will, is a Docker image. Meshery CTL, the command line client, it's a single static binary written in Go, but released to a couple different operating systems, a couple different architectures, rather. So it's the only artifact that isn't in a Docker image. So all of the images contain are then tagged appropriately for one channel or the next. And in the stable channel, they're versioned as well, both so that people can pin to a certain version, also so that they can know what version they're on. Also, because when you're inside of Meshery in the UI, it will tell you what version you're on, and it'll also tell you if you're running the latest version or not. Right here, it'll say running latest. And I don't know that this is the best lingo. I don't know that everyone would quite understand that. In fact, that is the latest. It will be evident when you're not running the latest. There will be a second line that says there's a later version available, and it will have the other version number. So anyway, a little bit of a walkthrough the problem area that Kush is addressing.
So the demo is up now, I guess now.
Very good.
So let's start quick. My screen is visible, right?
It is. I just realizing my screen wasn't. I thought I was sharing the whole time. Oh.
Okay. Let's try to switch to the stable channel. So the command will also see if Meshery is running or not. And then it will amend the configuration, stop the Meshery containers, remove the drivers, and then it will restart the Meshery with the new configuration. So you can see the Meshery is stopped, and now it's restarting the containers with the updated configuration.
And Kush, when do you expect people might use this the most?
When we have established release cycles, like Edge will have more features than stable, or sometimes Edge will have some new bug fixes which are not present on the stable yet because we haven't made a release. Yep. So we have switched to the stable release channel. You can even see the release version here, and you can see the containers which are running. Yep. So you can see all of them are stable latest. Now let's try to switch to Edge channel. So now it's updating the containers with the edge containers rather than using the stable containers. So I have already cached the stable and edge containers. That's why it's quite fast right now. But if you have not got the edge containers, the Meshery CTL will pull it from the Docker Hub and it will cache it. So next time when you do, you don't get the error like I just got over here again.
And then in Meshery's UI right now,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that Meshery Edge is running, would you expect to see Edge there as well?
Now, if the version is not Edge, there will no. The case has to be handled
Okay.
because right now we are displaying the stable version over here, and we are not tagging Edge with anything. So we need to add a special clause, and if you're running Edge, then it will just say you are on the Edge latest rather than showing any release tag. I don't know why I'm seeing this error again and again with different containers. Like, is it just mine or
It's possible that you're being rate limited, that you've sent too many pull requests to those repos within a short amount of time.
every time it's a different container? Like this time it's NSM, last time it was console, Huma.
Yeah. Then I'm guessing just a poor net, that packets are being lost or there's a poor network.
I don't know. The stable switch was quite fast.
I expect because all those images were cached locally, probably. Maybe.
Yep,
Who?
done right now. So we are on Edge channel now. So in the UI, if you will see, it will say undefined because the UI expects a stable channel to be running. We will see stable undefined, which needs to be fixed. And also we need to provide a functionality to switch the channels from over here, which is right now a disabled radio button. So for verification, if you will just type, so you can see the container's name. All of the containers are Edge latest.
Who has feedback for Kush? Who has questions for Kush? So some things to look forward to in the future is that in the future, when you run Meshry CTL system start, it won't necessarily assume that you're trying to start Meshry locally in Docker. It should also facilitate, also provide that you might be wanting to run Meshry in a Kubernetes cluster, whether that's on a local machine or remote, and it should help you provision there as well. So it's not that we want, not that we collectively would want for people to have to put in a bunch of command line arguments and to say, oh, the platform type is Docker or the platform type is Kubernetes, and then here's the credentials to Kubernetes. Like that would get annoying and it would get long. So bringing in a context command, Meshry CTL system context, to let people configure the context in which they're going to use Meshry CTL as a client to talk to what instance of Meshry that they might be running, what instance of Meshry server, because people might be running multiple in different places. And so just like kubectl has context, probably so should Meshry CTL. But yeah.
Like right now in the configuration command, we list all the context and ask the user to choose a context.
So Kush, for my part, I'll be using this command quite a bit because it's very frequent that I'll want to verify the functional behavior of a recent change. So this is great. Any other feedback for Kush? Okay. Nice. Well, a couple of points of feedback are put into the meeting minutes. And then outside of that, So the next topic up was going to be from Augustine. Augustine also goes by Austin for short, which is nice. So Josh, if you see me being brief with his name, that's why. So Augustine is a contributor in the community. He's been here not for a real long time, but has been highlighted as having more of a unique skill set than a lot of the rest of us, which is on visual design. So he's been busy in using Figma as a tool for a lot of that visual design. Some of you are familiar with the Layer5 brand guide, which the brand guide is out there in the Google shared drive that you all have access to. It's a PowerPoint presentation, or it's a Google slide rather. And it talks about color schemes and typography and do's and don'ts and what we're about and etc. It's very helpful as we go to make sure that there's a uniform feeling, some consistency across the projects that literally live in their own domains. And as we go to, as we go to spin up new projects like Get Nighthawk, well, leveraging the brand guide to say, well, hey, what should the logo look like? And what are some of those colors? And it should be its own project, be its own thing, but it should be somewhat evident that it's a child of Layer5, or like a child of the community that, so it should have some resemblance to its parent, if you will. Anyway, one aspect of the brand is the use of font or typography. Historically, and still to this day, we're using Open Sans. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, okay, see, this whole time I thought sharing my screen last time, I thought I was doing it this time. Anyway, we use Open Sans as the font face, as the typeface across on the websites as well, in the docs. And it's, for my part, my opinion is that's, it's good, it works well. There's, it's somewhat recognizable, not entirely. So there's been a little bit of a refinement on that to continue to use Open Sans, but also add in another font, Canella's Soft. And so here's the doc, or the slides that I was talking about. There's a section in here that talks about typography. So Open Sans and the fact that it's used, but this other Canella Soft, really fairly similar. The thought is that it would be used for headings, where Open Sans would be used for copy, for paragraphs. So how is this relevant to technology projects? Well, there's a few things. So for most of you know that there's a meeting every day of the week because we have a lot of projects going on. One of the projects, which meets on, one of the meetings that meets on Monday, it really digs into the 5 or 6 different websites that are maintained. And that includes documentation sites. And so so people in there are cutting their teeth on how to do good design and how to do that uniformly. And so this is really more of a topic typically of that call, but I thought we would share it briefly just because that's been a recent decision. So feel free to comment at leisure on anything in here, actually anything in this brand guide that does not comment on anything that doesn't carry the needs updated, because the needs updated is just this stuff is wrong. We're still in the process of updating. But all right, next topic up, Shriti. I thought you might be able to talk about Katacoda, the labs.
Sure, I can actually demo it.
Nice.
Which would probably be better than me talking about it. Just a sec.
All right.
All right. Is my screen visible?
It is.
Great. All right, we have a course up. which allows you to go run Mesh3, go install any of the adapters, work with the service meshes, deploy sample apps, and will walk you through the process. I'll demo the one with Linkerd today. When you start the scenario, it's an entire Linux terminal, which will be prepped for you with a running Minikube cluster. And you have to wait for about 60 seconds for it to do so. We already have one prepped because I figured that we probably wouldn't want to wait. And there you go. That's all you need to do. You can go check up on your nodes. You can go through the entire tutorial. And then the great thing about Mesh3 is that you can download, install, deploy, and auto-launch Mesh3 with just one single command. And that's what we'll be doing here. You can go click it. It will auto copy to the terminal and start executing. This takes up to a minute because it downloads and pulls up all the containers. I already have it running here. So let me just show you. Let's quickly hop over to the Mesh3 server, click on DisplayPort. It is already
Sri, if you would, if you don't mind, just to, so there, look, can you go to advance to the next step? Or
sure.
is that part of the first step?
Installing Mesh3, that's the first step.
Okay, and bringing up the local host, that's part of the first step. Okay, very good.
Yep. All right. You can quickly hop over to the Mesh3 server. We're currently having a little bit of an issue with the Mesh3 provider, but let's go with none for now. I'll open this up to a bigger. Just a sec. Yeah. So that it's more visible to everybody on the call. We're currently using Minikube and Mesh3. Well, it auto discovers your cluster. So go ahead, run tests, ensure that it's connected. And that's it. You have Mesh3 up and running. You can go through the rest of the tutorial, which is a basic run through of how Mesh3 works and installing any and all sample apps that you can from it, running those sample apps and getting them to work. And that's it. We currently have 5 of those tutorials up, and you'll be able to access them, I think, in a day or two. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Good, yeah. And then, so are you accepting feedback from or soliciting?
Yeah, of course.
Or, I mean, maybe rather, is this in part also a call for comment from the folks on the phone? Like for them to go give it a try and give some feedback in the Slack if they have any feedback?
Yeah, sure. You can actually go run this. It is available publicly. It's just not available under the Layer5 banner, but I'll put a link to this in the meeting minutes. Please do go run these labs. If you have any feedback, even if you have any feedback by the end of the call, speak up and tell me and we'll work around it.
Nice. And then Shriti, could you go back to the, I'm going to use the wrong word, but sort of the course catalog,
Just a sec.
And then if you would just describe to people the structure of the catalog and if it's to grow, if this is the complete set, how does it?
At the moment, this is one of the courses that we'll be putting out. This is a basic course, which basically gets you started with Mesh3. It lets you play around with Mesh3. It lets you install service meshes. It lets you experiment with basic features and maybe get a few sample apps running, or maybe experiment with any of the apps features or any of the meshes features. We'd also be having other courses based on either performance testing or SMI testing or more advanced features of Mesh3. Currently in the basic course, you'll be able to well, work with 5 of these service meshes. And yeah.
Nice. I am not hip to Katakoda's nomenclature or their structure. So I said catalog, but can you take us through that? Like what would we expect this to look like in the end? Is there like a single location or like eventually sort of a single location?
Yeah. So Katakoda either allows you to have courses in which there are labs or a set of labs that can be coagulated or put under a single heading that makes sense. And this is one course. This is an example of a course, which is 5 labs, or labs can be individually kept as well. And yeah, that's it. That's the entire hierarchy.
Okay, good deal. So the one of these, like the one working with Meshry, that is a scenario.
Yep.
These are all collected inside of one course.
Course. Yep.
And then you can collect courses under
Nothing.
nothing?
Under an account.
Okay, under an account. Okay,
Yeah.
so under a given account, people would go there, they'd see, yep, okay, great.
They'd see something like this.
Nice. They'd see 5 scenarios to learning. Okay. So outside of soliciting for feedback on the call, if this isn't, and so you've got a further set of curriculum to create here, can people contribute? If so, how do they do that?
Yeah, of course. If you want to work on creating these, ping me, and I'll be more than happy to walk you through the process and get you started on actually writing one of these. If you want to suggest on what the tutorial should be, the title or the content or anything, I believe the content form would be an appropriate place to start, which is basically a Google form in which you go give a suggestion. And I'll be sure to put a link to that in the meeting minutes. I believe it's also available in the Meshry documentation in the resources page, but that might not be very obvious.
Okay. Okay, let me, good. Who has feedback for Shriti? Is anyone interested in working on these scenarios? All right, let me share a couple of things. So Vishal, you'd asked for the link. Here's a link to the account that Shriti was demoing from. That account will change over time. These are a work in progress. If you want to contribute, Shriti, maybe I'll change those instructions a little bit. Like certainly get in touch with Shriti, but also message in one of the public channels in Slack. The location of the labs is in one of Layer5, in one of the repos under Layer5 IO. What is it? Service mesh scenarios, is that it?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. And so Shriti, when will you move those over? Is that after we create a new account or is that before?
Preferably after we create a new account, because that makes more sense.
Okay. So of the scenarios for people to work on, those specifics can you do me a favor? Can you create issues on that repo?
All right, sure.
Nice. Of the
issues for particular labs?
Yeah. Generally, these are the labs that we'll be looking for. So I'll put this link in our meeting minutes right now. This is a long list of patterns of things that you can do with a service mesh. Things that some of these things Meshry facilitates right now, and others of these things it has yet to. But if any of these are of interest to you and writing those labs are of interest, then good. This is a good place to look at what some of those needs are and certainly get in touch with Shriti. So, patterns. Nice.
All right, for anybody who wanted to try the lab, there's a link in the meeting minutes.
Okay, good deal. Any other feedback for Shriti? Vishal, you're going to go test those right now, aren't you? I'm hoping.
All right, please do go test those, and if something doesn't work or if something doesn't look good, come back to me and please do give your feedback.
Vineeth, you're up.
Haley.
Hey.
Actually, no success at all. Like there's some CSS stuff that I'm not able to do.
You are.
Maybe I had to have to redo all of that to make it work. But I'm afraid I'm not a long time contributor to Layer5 NG, right? I was not working on that, so I don't know what all to maybe change that.
Okay. Since last we spoke, any progress?
You told that maybe apply some hover effects to the parent, right? A parent element.
Yeah. Yep. Were you able to try that out?
Yeah. So maybe we can get success from that, but maybe the menu will go away right after you hover onto the mega menu.
Yep. Okay. So for context for everyone, there's a new site, Layer5. There's a new Layer5 IO site being worked on to displace the current site. And so this is certainly one of the things that gets talked about on the Monday calls. There's a desired menu design, and we refer to it as a mega menu. And that design incorporates it's links like you might expect in any menu, menu items to navigate around the site. But it also includes callouts to specific elements to highlight, and those change depending upon what menu you're on. The menu itself is a little large, like there's some work to be done. One of the things that Vineeth is working on is when controlling as and when the mega menu is activated, the animation that it has is, I think, probably fine. Like but the challenge is it's activated each time that you touch one of these top level menu items. So if you move your mouse over to projects, it goes away and comes back. And so if you go across them, it's a bit much. It sort of blinks, and it becomes an overused animation at that point. And so, yeah, Vineeth, one of the thoughts here is that instead of setting activation on hover of a given menu item, is to just have an invisible div that covers about the general area of, I'm sorry, probably an invisible div. I suspect that would just cover the general area, cover all of these items, and that the animation is triggered once, only when that invisible div is rolled over. Now, which of the what data to show in there, though, would be dependent upon where the location of the mouse and relative to the menu item.
Yeah, I did that, but the when you hover on that, like when you hover, like the mega menu disappears when you apply this activation on the upper level items. Like you just said invisibility, right?
Yep.
So that mega menu disappears when you hover over to that. Can I show that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is this visible?
It is.
Okay. Now, this is what you said, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, it's not flickering right now, but when you hover onto the mega menu, that it disappears. This happens when you apply hovering effect to the upper element, I mean the div, invisible div. So this is what I tried many methods, but I couldn't come up with the correct one.
Cool. Okay, good. It looks like that the first step that you've taken is working well, right? Because if you horizontally roll across them.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then you're updating that. But yeah, control over making it persist, like control over when to tell it to go away is the next challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
That's progress. I'll raise my hand to brainstorm with you on how to approach that. Does anybody else on the call have suggestions? I don't know that anyone necessarily would, but okay. Any feedback for Vineeth before we go to the next topic? All right, fair enough. Nice, good. All right, progress. It'll be comforting to know that our mega menu won't induce an epileptic seizure on people by flashing on them. Okay. Thanks for that, Vineeth. Hey, we had a couple of other topics that I tossed in. So if does anybody else have questions or things to talk about? Because we've got about 5 minutes left. All right, so briefly, a couple of things. All of you are, well, many of you are maybe familiar with the fact that Docker Hub had introduced some rate limiting recently, that they're paying for the storage of the world's Docker image or container images, Docker images. And they've been doing it for many years. And they've had a hard time as a startup making, open source centric startup making money. And like they've got high S3 bills, high AWS bills. So they're starting to rate limit how, they're starting to curate and remove unused images, because having an open file system to the world was like, yeah, it's going to get messy. So anyway, as they go to do that, one, as an open source centric organization, we've filed for and been approved to be not be rate limited or not have those that apply to us. So we applied, got approved, and I need to follow up to make sure that those enforcements are in effect. The interesting thing to note here is that we had recently given a demo at DockerCon, this last DockerCon. Kanish Karjay, one of the contributors, had given a presentation on the Imagehub project, which you can find details of here. This project is it's of interest to Docker because what they're doing right now, the Imagehub itself is a sample app. It's a ripoff of Docker Hub. It was just generically called Imagehub. It was just a sample app to demonstrate a technology capability, WebAssembly or WASM, and applying those WebAssembly filters in Envoy. So Envoy running a network filter. This filter that we wrote was written in Rust. And what it demonstrated was the ability to rate limit Docker pull requests based on a couple of factors. One of those factors being business logic like, hey, of the request to pull an image of if the user is authenticated, if the user is unauthenticated, apply this rate limit. If the user is authenticated, take a look at that user's price plan, their subscription plan. Are they subscribed to the free tier, the enterprise tier? I forget what we used as examples inside this sample app. But depending upon what tier they were on, the filter would either allow the pull request or it would rate limit the person. Well, as fate would have it, a couple months later, Docker is rolling out this rate limiting based on, basically Docker is doing the exact same thing as what we designed in this sample app. And the hub team wants to talk to us. And good, we want to talk to them. It would be something if they ended up using our demo, or if our demo was, what's the right word? Something of a premonition of things to come. I think that it is. I think that a number of the projects that we have are things that will be useful for people in the future. So kind of an interesting twist of fate, I think it relates to us as we use Docker images for releasing software, potentially would get rate limited ourselves as a community, but also then to see one of our sample projects get potentially used as the technology to actually rate limit the world's, determine rate limiting for what Kush was just doing. That would be pretty neat. So anyway, if people are into C++ or Rust and want to do things with Envoy and network filters, there's, say so in one of the channels. Well, there's work to be done. So in the last couple of minutes, a couple quick thoughts, just an acknowledgement that there is a proposal out there for a new set of commands under mesh. That you'll find the design spec in, I think in the community drive. You'll also find the link on Wednesday's Meshery development meeting. There's a link to that review there. Something else to highlight here is that we had announced a number of maintainers, a number of people who've been in the community consistently and sort of aligned with the vision and the culture of Layer5 and had been recognized for their efforts and have become maintainers of various either aspects of projects or for projects themselves. And while we celebrated them in this community call, we didn't necessarily celebrate them more broadly, more publicly. And so we're working on doing that with little cards, little social media cards that highlight the individuals. Those cards could be accompanied by a blog post as an optional thing. And part of that line of thinking is that the cards would say, hey, meet the maintainer so-and-so. They could read more about them. They could maybe come and join them on a podcast where we're interviewing them, or they're kind of talking about their experience there. And the thing is we're considering having a video podcast on a regular basis anyway. That has a fair bit to do with one of the books that's being written now. It's called Service Mesh Patterns. This one. And the thought is that the two co-authors of this book end up talking about once a week. They talk about the current pattern that they're writing. And it's actually this same list of patterns here are the ones that will be discussed. And so the thought is that we can talk about other things like meeting a maintainer. So I'm just kind of throwing out some thoughts and some upcoming activities. Another activity, hopefully, is that there is a Meshery roadmap, but it is there's no timeline to it, and there's no like version numbers associated with particular features. It's just there's a document inside of the community drive that lists out a long wish list of functionality, and a little bit of refinement might go a long way. There's certainly enough of us here now to begin to be a bit more structured, begin to be able to say, hey, we think in version .6 that what is .6? It should be this. It should be, this is the feature, the release theme, and so on. So I'll certainly be, for my part, I'll speak for my part, like, hey, anyone's welcome to weigh in on this. For my part, I'll certainly be soliciting feedback as we go. So we're 2 minutes over. Anybody have anything else to talk about today? Nice. Just how I like contributors, just quiet and compliant. That's how we do it. Good. Okay. Well, hey, we'll see everybody next week. Same time, same place, same bad jokes, if not from me, from Shriti. So, okay. Thank you all. See you guys next week.
Bye-bye. See you next week. Have a nice weekend.
Hey, have a nice weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend.